Hello and welcome to the United Stand. Manchester United have bid £40 million for Eric Dier from Spurs, according to Jim White of Sky Sports and TalkSport fame. Now, how reliable is Jim White? Do we want Eric Dier at Manchester United? And is there any credibility in relation to this rumour? Well, to be fair, Jim White, when he tweets stuff, does get stuff right sometimes. And I hope, in this case, he is going to get it right, because everything is pointing towards Manchester United signing Nemanja Matic from Chelsea for around £45 million, maybe even £50 million. As I just read from one of your comments there, I would sign Eric Dier and I would go as high as 55 million, because I certainly think he's worth 10, maybe 15 million more than Matic to us. Matic will turn 29 in August. Eric Dier is English and he turned 23 in January. That's 6 years on Matic, and I personally don't think there's anything between them. I think Dier is probably the better player. So if we had to spend £60 million on him, I would do it, and I hope that this 40 million, I don't think we'll get him for 40 million, but I hope it's the start of negotiations that will bring him to Manchester United. I'm still fearful that we will end up getting Nemanja Matic, but I'm hopeful that there is something in this and it means that we're going for him. It's been mentioned probably for about 6-7 weeks now that Eric Dier is Jose Mourinho's primary #1 target for the centre defensive midfield position. And I think it's a bit like Perisic. Perisic is clearly his #1 target for the out wide. I personally like Perisic. I know a lot of United fans aren't too sure about him, but I think we can all pretty much agree that we want Perisic at Manchester United because we want our manager to get his first choices. It's very, very obvious that Matic is not his first choice. It's very, very obvious that that somebody like Perisic is. And I think if that's the same with Eric Dier, which it appears to be, I want him to get his first choices. Lukaku's going to work out well, I'm sure of it, but Morata was his first choice. We don't want him not getting his first choices. What would Eric Dier bring to Manchester United? Well, he's English, which in relation to having homegrown players is a good thing. He's young, which means Mourinho can get, a year ago, as I was saying on the previous video, a year ago, Eric Dier playing in the Euros for England, I liked the look of him. I would have took him at Manchester United. He hasn't had a dreadful year, but he's not had as good a year as I thought and many thought he would be. Renato Sanchez is available on loan. I would take him tomorrow. I think he's a fantastic talent, but he's had a dreadful year, a nightmare of a year. If I can take Renato Sanchez based on a bad year, then I can take Eric Dier based on, an okay year. And to be honest, a year ago I would have took him. What would he bring to Manchester United? Look, I'm not going to say he's blessed with massive pace, but he's far more tenacious than Matic, Fellaini, Carrick. He's part Portuguese as well, so I mean whatever that means, but he's actually quite good on the ball. 6'2", so Mourinho would like that. His idol is Roy Keane, so again that's a massive tick in the box for me. If you're asking me if it's a choice between Dier and Matic, it's Dier every day of the week and Sunday, absolutely 100%. And if this is true, and Manchester United have bid, apparently this is the third bid, we offered 25 million, 30 million and now 40 million, then I hope we keep bidding, because if this is his first choice, and apparently Dier wants to come to United, I think he might be a United fan as a kid, let's pursue it. Let's just go after it. I don't want us to walk away from another deal because of the fee. I don't want that to happen. It's not my money. Spend the bloody money on the players that you want to get. Do I think we'll get him for 40 million? They've just sold Kyle Walker for 50 million. If Kyle Walker's worth 50 million to Spurs, then I'm sorry to say Eric Dier is probably 60 million. But spend it. Spend it and bring him into the club, because I think I'd be stunned. I'd be absolutely stunned if people don't want him and would prefer Matic. I really would. But let's have a look what people are saying on the comments. £40 million offer. I don't think it's going to be enough, but as a starting point, let's continue. Let's get it done and let's get him signed, and let's avoid the nightmare situation of Fellaini without a wig in Matic. I would personally play Herrera as a CDM and employ another world-class attacking midfielder, says Cyber Vest. Well, we'd all love Verratti, Herrera and Pogba as a midfield three. Abby says Dier is Mourinho's first choice, although Perisic is not, or else we would have paid up and signed him already. No, I disagree. I think United are penny pinching on Perisic. I just want Eric Dier instead of anyone else, but if we do get someone else, it could be possible to buy Matic, says Ethan. Is it possible to get Eric Dier, says Sandeep, especially when Spurs are going to a new stadium? Spurs would want to make up for the money spent on their new stadium. Roy Keane is his idol. Good lad, Dier, says Kev McGear. Better option than Matic, says Vinny Lingo's TV. Spurs want 60 million for Matic, says Ducker. Craig Curtis says that. That's a bit of a mix-up, but 60 million for Matic. They want 60 million for Dier, I think. George Clancy says Mark only likes players from foreign leagues. That's why I like Eric Dier from the Premier League. Why don't we just offer £1 million for 100 million for Verratti? He's only 23, 24 and he'll be amazing. What is the Herrera thing, says Ryan Rafferty. We'll talk about that another time. We'll do it tomorrow night actually, because we're live for an hour and a half before the game, so we'll talk about it tomorrow night. And we play Madrid tomorrow night. Mark, what do you think of Ndidi, says Leanders. David Baratheon says Dier is quality, Matic is crap. No to Perisic at the cost of Martial. And why don't we just offer... Yeah, a lot of people on about Verratti. Spurs haven't signed anybody yet, but they've obviously sold players. Dier and Matic, says Joe Gibbs. I don't want two centre defensive midfielders. I think we need more numbers in the midfield, but we don't need centre defensive midfielders. We won the title, Avit, says Liverpool fan. Okay. And remember we bought Carrick from Spurs, says Peaks. Yes, around the same age. Fabinho would be perfect. A lot of people on about him. As I said, I just don't think we're in for Fabinho, but Eric Dier to Manchester United would be a massive improvement. And from what I still feel is inevitable, I'm not convinced we're going to sign Eric Dier. I think we'll end up with Matic. And you know why I think we'll end up with Matic? Because he's available and Chelsea want to sell him, so we'll get him for a decent price. Whereas Spurs don't want to sell Eric Dier, so we'd have to overpay for him. And for some reason, United, much the same with Perisic, you know, we want to get him for a fair price, but Inter don't want to sell him. When somebody doesn't want to sell a player and they don't have to sell a player, you've got to force their hand to sell them. Unless the player puts in a transfer request, which is quite rare these days, if you really want a player and that club doesn't want to sell that player and they don't need to sell that player, you're not going to get them for a fair price. You're going to have to overpay. You know, Eric Dier is probably worth 30 million, maybe 35 in a current fair market. It's not a fair market. We might have to pay 50. We might have to pay 55. But if he's Mourinho's first choice, go and sell him. Go and sign him. Perisic, exactly the same. Yes, he's worth 35 million. He's not worth much more. But if Inter Milan won't sell him for anything less than 50 and Mourinho wants him, spend the 50. I don't know why we are messing around. I don't know why Woodward's messing around. I don't know why the Glazers are instructing Woodward to mess around. Don't get him unless it's for a fair price. Our manager wants these players. Back this manager, because you're very bloody lucky to be in the Champions League. And it's down to our manager. Back him. He wants players. Fair play to Mourinho. He wants Perisic and he wants Dier, and they are players that their clubs don't want to sell. Of course, that's a good thing. To be going after players that the clubs that they play for don't want to sell is a big indication that they're decent players and their clubs don't want to sell them. Overpay for them, get them. Getting Matic because we can get him for a decent price because Chelsea want to sell him should be a big red flag that we don't want that sort of player because the club he plays for don't want him. There's a reason for that. Go and get the players that the clubs don't want to sell him. Overpay, get them in, get Mourinho's first choice. That's what I want to see happening. And if we did bid for Fabinho, but we've walked away from it because the club don't want to sell him, why didn't we make them an offer they can't refuse? We're Manchester United, we've got loads of money. Spend the money on the players our manager wants to get, and don't be coming back with value third or fourth choice signings like Matic. Get the player that he wants to get in. And if all things are true, Eric Dier wants to come to Manchester United, so get him to Manchester United. Mourinho wanted Lindelof. I'm sure he'll turn him into one of the best centre-backs, even though he looks a little bit raw at the moment. Lukaku, Mourinho wanted him. Yes, he's got a bad first touch, and yeah, there's things to improve. I'm guarantee you that Mourinho will sort him out. Get Eric Dier. Yeah, there's a few things about his game that, need to sort out. But if Mourinho wants him as his first choice, I bet Mourinho turns him into one of the best midfielders in the country. And the same with Perisic. Get these players in. Get his first choice. Back this manager. Give the club and the fans what they want and overspend to get the players that he wants because their clubs don't want to sell them. We're not going to get value. Spurs aren't going to turn around and go, you know what? He probably is only worth 35 million. We'll take it. They're not. They're going to want 60. Pay it. Get him. Thanks everyone for watching. Tyrone Williams says Eric Dier isn't that great. I'm not pretending that he is, Tyrone. You know, if you're asking me whether Eric Dier would be my first choice, no, he's not. But if he's Mourinho's first choice, get him, because he's a hell of a lot better than Matic, and that's what I think we're going to end up with. Third or fourth choice Matic, because Chelsea don't want him and I'm happy to sell. Get Eric Dier. If that's what Mourinho wants, get him in. Thanks, everyone. Speak to you all soon. Get commenting below. I know Eric Dier is the divider. I would be very happy to get him because it's not Matic. Simple as that. But I just hope there's something in this, because I still think we'll end up with Matic. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you all very soon. Don't forget to drop a like on the video. If anything happens, we'll be back again live later. Go back and watch the other video now, because we were live doing the Saturday Night Live and it was a really good show. I'll speak to you all later. Thanks for watching.